You want a transformed life, but you do not want a transformed mind. You want peace, but you refuse truth. You want power, but you will not bow. That contradiction is the reason so many people sit in misery while speaking the language of victory. Your life will never rise above the thoughts you tolerate. You can decorate the outside, manage behavior, polish speech, but if the inner man remains untouched, nothing has changed. You are not a victim of your circumstances nearly as much as you are a prisoner of your thinking. The greatest battle you will ever face is not against the world out there. It is against the lies you have believed for years and defended as if they were friends. You wake up every morning carrying assumptions, interpretations, conclusions, and fears that were never examined, never tested, and never confronted. Then you wonder why you repeat the same cycle of defeat. A man who refuses to think rightly will always live wrongly. A woman who feeds her mind with poison will call the sickness normal. You say you want transformation, but transformation is violent. It tears down strongholds. It humiliates pride. It exposes self-deception. It does not negotiate with your comfort. A shift in mind said is not positive thinking layered on top of a corrupt foundation. It is demolition followed by rebuilding. And demolition is loud, uncomfortable, and frightening because it leaves you exposed for a time. Most people would rather remain enslaved than feel naked. Your mind has been trained, not by accident, but by repetition. Every fear you rehearse becomes a master. Every excuse you repeat becomes law. Every compromise you justify becomes a brick in the prison you call your personality. You were not born thinking this way. You were discipled into it. By your environment, by your wounds, by your indulgences, by voices you trusted that never deserved authority over your soul. Do not flatter yourself by thinking ignorance is harmless. Wrong thinking always produces wrong living. If you believe life is about you, you will use people. If you believe comfort is the highest good, you will abandon truth the moment it costs you. If you believe you are entitled, you will grow bitter when the world does not bow. Beliefs are not neutral. They shape direction. They determine endurance. They reveal allegiance. You can measure a man's future by the thoughts he refuses to surrender. Some of you have built an entire identity around weakness. You do not just experience fear. You call yourself fearful. You do not just struggle. You define yourself by struggle. You do not just fall. You announce that falling is who you are. That is not humility. That is pride disguised as honesty. It is a refusal to let truth interrupt your narrative. The most dangerous lies are not shouted by the world. They are whispered by your own heart. You say, "This is just how I am." You say, "I cannot change." You say, "Others were given more." And with every sentence you excuse yourself from responsibility while pretending to be realistic. Reality is not what you feel. Reality is what is true, and truth does not bow to your emotions. A shift in mindset begins when you stop asking how to feel better and start asking what is true. Comfort-driven thinking produces shallow people. Truth-driven thinking produces free people. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty. It is the presence of clarity. A man who knows why he lives can endure almost anything. A man who does not will collapse under the weight of convenience. You must learn to interrogate your thoughts. Do not accept them simply because they arrive unannounced. Ask where they came from. Ask who benefits if you believe them. Ask whether they align with truth or merely protect your pride. Many of your thoughts are not your own. They are echoes of fear, culture, trauma, or laziness. If you do not examine them, they will govern you. You cannot think like a slave and live like a free man. You cannot think like a consumer and live like a disciple. You cannot think like a coward and walk in courage. Your life will always move in the direction of your dominant thoughts. Discipline your mind or it will discipline you. There is no neutral ground. Some of you have trained your mind to resist responsibility. Every challenge becomes an excuse to retreat. Every correction feels like an attack. Every demand feels unfair. You have mistaken entitlement for dignity. Dignity is not demanding ease. Dignity is embracing duty. Great lives are not built on what feels good, but on what is right. You want a new season, but you cling to old thinking. You pray for doors to open, while locking yourself inside patterns of unbelief. You ask for growth, while refusing correction. Transformation does not begin with circumstances changing. It begins with submission. Until your mind bows to truth, your life will resist order. There is a kind of thinking that exalts self, and a kind that humbles self. One leads to exhaustion, the other to strength. Pride-driven thinking says, I must protect my image. Humble thinking says, I must pursue truth, even if it shatters me. One produces anxiety because it depends on performance. The other produces stability because it depends on reality. Do not confuse confidence with noise. Loud thoughts are often weak thoughts trying to survive. Quiet conviction is born from truth deeply rooted. When your mind is anchored, you do not need constant affirmation. You do not need to win every argument. You do not need to be seen. You know who you are because you know what is true. A renewed mind is not obsessed with self-improvement. It is devoted to alignment. It asks not, how can I succeed? But how should I live? Success without truth is a polished failure. Advancement without integrity is decay with better lighting. You do not need a bigger platform. You need a clearer conscience. Many people ruin their lives not through dramatic rebellion, but through small, unchallenged assumptions. They assume they have time. They assume effort is optional. They assume feelings are facts. They assume growth should be easy. These assumptions slowly rot the soul. By the time consequences arrive, the mind has already been trained to blame everyone else. Your thoughts about suffering will determine whether it crushes you or shapes you. If you believe suffering is meaningless, you will become bitter. If you believe suffering is punishment, you will become resentful. But if you understand that hardship exposes, refines, and instructs, you will not waste your pain. A renewed mind does not ask, why me? It asks, what must be learned? You cannot transform your life while protecting your illusions. Some of you are in love with the story you tell yourself. It paints you as misunderstood, overlooked, and justified. It absolves you of change, but the story is false, and it is killing you. Truth does not flatter, but it heals. A shift in mindset requires repentance, not motivation. Motivation excites. Repentance reorients. Motivation fades when feelings change. Repentance stands when feelings rebel. You do not need another surge of inspiration. You need a settled resolve to think differently even when it hurts. Stop waiting for clarity before obedience. Clarity often comes after obedience. The mind is sharpened by action aligned with truth. Many people want understanding without commitment. They want certainty without surrender. But truth reveals itself to those willing to walk in it, not to those who merely analyze it. Your private thoughts shape your public life. What you entertain in secret will eventually announce itself. You cannot hide from yourself. You may deceive others for a time, but your habits know what you truly believe. A renewed mind produces disciplined habits. A chaotic mind produces impulsive living. Do not romanticize your brokenness. Brokenness is not an identity. It is a condition meant to be healed. Some of you have learned to draw attention to wounds instead of pursuing restoration. That is not authenticity. It is stagnation. Healing begins when you stop defining yourself by what hurt you and start defining yourself by what is true. The mind that is constantly offended is a mind enslaved to self. Offense is a declaration that your ego has been threatened. A renewed mind is not easily shaken because it is not built on approval. When truth governs you, criticism becomes a tool, not a weapon. You must stop negotiating with destructive thoughts. You cannot coexist with lies and expect peace. Starve them, replace them, speak truth until it sounds familiar. Your mind will resist at first because it has been trained to survive on distortion. Persistence is required, discipline is required, courage is required. Do not underestimate the power of what you repeatedly focus on. Attention is a form of worship. What you dwell on shapes what you value. What you value directs your choices. If your mind is constantly feeding on fear, comparison, and self-pity, do not be surprised when your life reflects those things. A transformed mind does not mean the absence of struggle. It means the presence of direction. You will still face temptation, doubt, and weariness, but you will no longer be confused about who is in charge. Truth will have the final word, not emotion. Some of you are waiting for permission to change. You are waiting for affirmation, support, or perfect conditions. You will wait forever. Change requires decision. Decision requires courage. Courage requires that you stop placing blame and start taking responsibility. You are not as trapped as you think. The bars are mental before they are external. When the mind is renewed, even chains lose their authority. History is filled with people who were confined yet free, and people who were free yet enslaved. Freedom begins between the ears. A renewed mind is sober. It does not exaggerate threats or inflate self. It sees clearly. It does not panic easily because it understands perspective. Panic is often the result of a mind that believes it is the center of the universe. When truth re-centers you, anxiety loses its throne. You must learn to sit under truth without immediately defending yourself. Let it confront you. Let it wound your pride. Let it expose your contradictions. That pain is not your enemy, resistance is. The mind that refuses correction cannot be transformed. Stop confusing activity with growth. You can be busy and still stagnant. Growth requires reflection, evaluation, and change. It requires that you ask hard questions about why you do what you do. A renewed mind is willing to slow down long enough to be honest. You cannot transform your life while constantly numbing your mind. Endless distraction is not rest, it is avoidance. Silence reveals what noise hides. If you are afraid of being alone with your thoughts, it is because you know they are undisciplined. Face them, train them. Do not flee from them. Your thinking about purpose determines your endurance. If you live for comfort, suffering will destroy you. If you live for truth, suffering will deepen you. A renewed mind does not need constant happiness. It needs meaning. Some of you have built your mindset on comparison. You measure your worth against others. That path leads only to pride or despair. Truth-based thinking grounds your value in something unchanging. When you know who you are and why you live, comparison loses its grip. You must stop believing every thought that accuses you. Conviction leads to change. Condemnation leads to paralysis. Learn the difference. A renewed mind responds to truth with action, not with shame. Do not wait to feel different before thinking differently. Feelings often follow thoughts, not the other way around. Train your mind, and your emotions will eventually align. Discipline precedes desire. Transformation is not instantaneous. It is intentional. Day by day, thought by thought, you choose what will rule you. There are no shortcuts, there are no substitutes. There is only truth applied consistently. If you want a different life, you must wage war on familiar lies. You must challenge what you have always assumed. You must be willing to look foolish for a time as you learn to think rightly. Pride resists this. Humility embraces it. A renewed mind produces a steady life. Not perfect, not easy, but anchored. When storms come, and they will, you will not be swept away by panic because you are not governed by impulse. You will stand because you know what you believe and why. You do not need to invent yourself. You need to align yourself. You do not need to chase every new idea. You need to submit to truth and let it reshape you. When the mind is ordered, the life follows. Stop waiting for transformation to feel dramatic. Often it is quiet, persistent, and unseen. It looks like choosing truth when no one is watching. It looks like rejecting lies even when they are comforting. It looks like obedience when emotions protest. Your life will never be more than the product of your deepest convictions. Change the convictions and the life will follow. Ignore them and nothing else you try will last. This is not about self-help or personal branding or emotional hype. It is about reality. Reality does not bend to your preferences. It invites your surrender. When your mind yields to truth, your life begins to move in the right direction, even if the road is narrow, even if the cost is high, even if the progress is slow, because a mind anchored in truth cannot ultimately remain enslaved, and a life governed by truth cannot ultimately remain unchanged. Your life is shaped by what you believe, not by what you desire. This truth confronts the very foundation of how most people approach change. Desire is easy. Desire is emotional. Desire makes promises it cannot keep. You can desire a better life, desire peace, desire discipline, desire purpose, and still remain exactly where you are. Desire alone has never transformed anyone. It has never broken chains, never reshaped character, never carried a man through suffering. Desire only reveals what you wish were true. Belief determines what you live as if it is true. Many people are deeply sincere in their desires, and yet deeply deceived in their beliefs. They want freedom, but believe they are powerless. They want growth, but believe change is for others. They want meaning, but believe comfort is more important than truth. These contradictions quietly sabotage every good intention. You do not rise to the level of your hopes. You sink to the level of your convictions. When pressure comes, desire evaporates, but belief stands and gives commands. Belief is not what you say out loud when everything is calm. Belief is what governs you when obedience costs something. It is what controls your reactions when you are tired, afraid, or exposed. You may desire patience, but if you believe your anger is justified, you will nurture it. You may desire integrity, but if you believe cutting corners is necessary, you will compromise without hesitation. Your actions are the visible evidence of your invisible beliefs. This is why so many people are confused by their own lives. They wonder why they keep repeating the same patterns, making the same choices, returning to the same emptiness. They blame circumstances, relationships, or bad luck, but the real issue lies deeper. Their beliefs have never been challenged. You cannot live differently while believing the same lies. The structure of your life is built on the architecture of your mind. Desire is often fueled by emotion, but belief is forged by what you accept as true. Emotions change with weather, fatigue, approval, and success. Belief remains when emotion fades. A person who desires discipline will quit when motivation disappears. A person who believes discipline is necessary will act even when every feeling protests. That difference explains why some people endure hardship while others collapse under far less weight. Many people mistake intensity of desire for depth of belief. They feel strongly, speak passionately, and promise sincerely, but when inconvenience arrives, their choices expose the truth. They never believed enough to obey. Strong feelings are not strong foundations. When life presses down, feelings crack. Beliefs either hold or they do not. What you truly believe can be seen in how you spend your time, how you use your words, how you respond to correction, and how you treat responsibility. You may desire growth, but if you believe rest means avoidance, you will stagnate. You may desire wisdom, but if you believe you already know enough, you will stop learning. Belief determines posture. It either opens the mind or seals it shut. Desire often wants the outcome without the cost. Belief accepts the cost because it sees the value. A man who desires strength wants the appearance of it. A man who believes strength is forged through discipline submits himself to the process. Desire looks for shortcuts, belief walks narrow paths. Desire wants relief, belief wants truth. Many people are trapped not because they lack desire, but because they hold beliefs that quietly contradict it. They desire confidence, but believe they are defined by past failures. They desire peace, but believe control is necessary for safety. They desire purpose, but believe comfort must come first. These beliefs become invisible ceilings. You can push against them with motivation, but you will never break through until the belief itself is confronted. Beliefs are reinforced by repetition. The thoughts you tolerate become the truths you live by. If you repeatedly tell yourself that change is hard, life is unfair, and you are limited, those ideas will begin to feel factual. Over time, you stop questioning them. They become lenses through which you interpret everything. Desire may knock on the door, but belief decides whether it opens. This is why external changes rarely produce internal transformation. New environments, new relationships, and new opportunities may excite desire for a moment, but they cannot override deeply held beliefs. If you believe you are undeserving, you will sabotage success. If you believe you are powerless, you will retreat from responsibility. You will always return to the level of life that matches your beliefs. Many people cling to false beliefs because they provide emotional protection. Believing you cannot change excuses you from trying. Believing others are to blame shields you from responsibility. Believing the system is rigged comforts your pride when effort is required. These beliefs are not harmless. They are self-preserving lies that cost you your future. True belief is revealed by obedience, not by agreement. You can agree with truth and still not believe it. Agreement is intellectual, belief is directional. Belief moves you, it alters your priorities, it reshapes your habits. If your life does not move in the direction of what you claim to believe, then what you claim is not belief but opinion. Desire often wants immediate results. Belief is patient because it trusts the process. Desire grows frustrated when progress is slow. Belief remains steady because it understands that growth is often hidden before it is visible. This is why belief produces endurance. When desire fades, belief sustains action. Your beliefs also determine how you interpret failure. Desire sees failure as proof to quit. Belief sees failure as instruction. A person who believes growth is possible learns from mistakes. A person who believes failure defines them retreats into shame. The same event produces different outcomes depending on belief. You may desire courage, but if you believe fear must be eliminated before action, you will wait forever. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is obedience despite fear. Belief understands this. Desire does not. Desire waits for the feeling to change. Belief moves while the feeling resists. Belief shapes identity. What you believe about yourself becomes the boundaries of your behavior. If you believe you are weak, you will avoid challenge. If you believe you are capable of growth, you will step into responsibility. Identity is not discovered through desire, but formed through belief, reinforced by action. Many people spend their lives chasing motivation when what they need is conviction. Motivation comes and goes. Conviction stays. Conviction does not ask whether something feels good. It asks whether it is true. A life built on conviction may not look impressive, but it will be stable. A life built on desire may look exciting, but it will be fragile. Belief also determines how you handle truth when it confronts you. Desire wants affirmation. Belief welcomes correction. A person who desires approval will resist anything that threatens their image. A person who believes growth requires humility will receive rebuke as a gift. You can desire a transformed life and still resist the very truth that would transform you. This resistance often hides behind sincerity. You tell yourself you are trying, but trying without changing belief is merely exhausting. Effort applied in the wrong direction only deepens frustration. Belief is costly because it demands alignment. It demands that your words, actions, and priorities come under its authority. Desire demands nothing. It asks only to be felt. That is why desire is common and belief is rare. Many want change. Few are willing to let truth dismantle their thinking. When belief changes, behavior follows naturally. You do not have to force it. A man who believes fire will burn does not need motivation to pull his hand away. In the same way, when truth becomes belief, obedience becomes instinctive. The struggle lessens not because life is easier, but because the mind is clearer. Your beliefs are shaped by what you consistently listen to, dwell on, and submit to. If your mind is constantly fed fear, comparison, and self-pity, your beliefs will reflect that diet. Desire cannot overcome sustained mental conditioning. Only deliberate renewal can. Many people protect their beliefs because changing them feels like losing themselves. But what they are really losing are the lies that kept them comfortable. True belief does not destroy you. It exposes what was never solid to begin with. The fear of losing control keeps many from embracing truth. Belief also determines how you view suffering. Desire wants suffering to end. Belief seeks understanding within it. When you believe hardship is meaningless, you grow bitter. When you believe it can shape you, you grow resilient. The pain may be the same, but the outcome is entirely different. You cannot desire a belief you refuse to confront. As long as the belief remains unchallenged, it will quietly override every resolution you make. This is why temporary change collapses under pressure. The belief was never replaced. A person who believes truth is worth the cost will endure discomfort, misunderstanding, and delay. A person who only desires improvement will quit when the price becomes visible. This is the dividing line between those who change and those who remain the same while wishing otherwise. Your future is not decided by what you want, but by what you are convinced of. Belief determines direction. Desire only expresses preference. When belief aligns with truth, the life slowly but surely begins to follow, not because it is easy, not because it feels good, but because reality has taken its rightful place as the governing force of the mind.